Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about an Irish defender called Shane Lowry, who now plays in Malaysia at the age of 35. How'd he end up there? Have a listen. As I said, today we're talking about a 35-year-old defender called Shane Lowry, born in Australia to Irish parents from Dublin on the 12th of June 1989. He started his career in Australia with local side Heathridge around the age of 7, and then he went on to ECU Joondalup, whose senior side playing the second tier there. He initially joined, obviously, in their youth setup with their under 12s, I believe. Around the same time he was with Joondalup, there were then around 6 other players that later went on in their careers to represent Australia at senior international level. So he wasn't just at any club, he was at a very high level youth setup over there from the offset and mixing with top youth players, future internationals, which shows the standard he was at even at this early age in his career. He stayed with Joondalup until 2005 and even went on to make his senior debut with them as a still only 15-year-old. In circa February 2005 he made the ambitious move to England with English top tier side Aston Villa as a just gone 16-year-old, along with fellow teammate from Joondalup, Chris Hurd, who was one of the 6 players we mentioned a few minutes ago, who went on to be capped at senior level for Australia. Clearly, moving to England and Aston Villa as a club was a big move, would have been a big move for anyone, but especially a 16-year-old from the other side of the world, albeit his parents were originally from just over the water here in Ireland. Still, up to that point, Australia would have been all he ever really knew, so big move. From 2005 until 2009, he worked his way through their youth setup and teams until signing pro terms in 2009. He made his pro debut for Aston Villa on the 20th of August 2009 against Rapid Vienna in Europa League qualifying as a just gone 18-year-old, and all seemed fine and dandy on course for a good first breakout season with them. He stayed with Aston Villa for a total of 7 years from 2005 to 2012, but unfortunately only played for their first team 3 times in total. The 2 legs against Rapid Vienna and a solo FA Cup appearance as well. Whilst not breaking into the first team at Aston Villa, he did have 4 loan spells at big English clubs whilst he was there. Firstly at Plymouth Argyle 2009 as still only 18-year-old, appearing 13 times. 2010 with Leeds United, making 12 appearances where he won promotion to the Championship, which he played a significant role, regularly appearing for them. 2011 he went on loan again with Championship side Sheffield United, this time making 17 appearances, and then finally with another Championship, i.e. English second tier side Millwall, in the 2011-2012 season, signing on loan on the 23rd of November as still only 22-year-old and going on to play in almost all the games during his loan spell there, being a starter, playing the entire 90 minutes and being an integral part of their side as well. The English League is, as we know, one of the biggest, if not the biggest league in the world, depending who you ask, and making 23 appearances in total with them during his loan spell is very impressive. Millwall were so impressed with him that they signed him up to a permanent 2.5-year deal on the 27th of January 2012, so just a few months after he started his loan spell there. His first 2 seasons with Millwall, including the initial loan spell, went perfect, where he was again an integral part of the team throughout, playing week in, week out. Injury, change in manager and perception of subsequent form all led to less playing time in the 13-14 season, though he still played and started excessively throughout this season, just not as before, i.e. every single week, which he had been doing more or less for the prior 2 seasons at Millwall. He probably should have warranted a new contract, and I guess, though I don't know obviously the ins and outs, he was offered terms to a lesser than desirable amount than he wished and felt he warranted, and perhaps all the above, i.e. the minor injuries, change in manager, what they perceived change in form, were all used as bargaining tools to perhaps negotiate a contract with him that was less than, again, he probably warranted. and that happens in the game, unfortunately, when people are out of contract. Either way, whatever happened, he left at the end of the 13-14 season, which was the end of his contract, and on the 23rd of July 2014 signed with League One, i.e. third tier English side Leyton Orient for the 14-15 season, signing a 2-year deal at now 25. Still not a bad position to be in, and senior international caps would have still very much been a possibility for either Australia or Ireland, depending if Leyton Orient got promoted and or he himself moved to a higher league, even though third tier in England wouldn't have ruled them out, representing either completely at that stage regardless, as still a good enough level if you catch the eye of the international management team of whichever country. Unfortunately, however, at the end of the 13-14 season, Leyton Orient got relegated, and even though he played a lot during that season, going to the fourth tier wouldn't have been a viable option for him long term, and would have put him further away from where he personally would have wanted to be as a player at 25, i.e. going down instead of going up the leagues. As a result, on the 9th of September, he signed with Championship, i.e. second tier club Birmingham City, so he basically moved from the fourth tier to the second tier, again back to where he had proven himself already. A good move and well achieved step back up, but unfortunately it was a case that he had regular informed players already there ahead of him and didn't get the opportunities to break into the side in the way that he would have liked. His contract was up until the end of that season, so he took a bit of a gamble on the contract, which is understandable. He would have had full faith in himself to get a further deal. Again, only having a 1-year contract isn't a bad move either, because it gives you the power, if you have a great season, what you want to do next. But as I said, his contract was up until the end of that 15-16 season. But in January, the now 26-year-old had his contract cancelled by mutual consent and moved back to Australia with top A-League side Perth Lowry, signed a 2.5-year deal with them on the 27th of January 2016. Going back home was a smart move, i.e. surrounded by a support group was one factor. It also put him back front row and centre into the Australian senior international setup, which would have been key, you'd imagine, too, in his thinking. Besides the fact he's in the top tier of Australian football with one of the country's top sides on a long-term deal, all playing a role in that decision too. Back home to him, of course, he grew up there. It was also a successful move from a silverware point of view, as they won the Premier's Plate, which was Glory's first trophy in around 15 years at that stage. So to people outside of Australia, what that is it's first in the league after the regular season. Again, throughout his spell with Perth Lowry, he was again a starter, playing week in, week out for the duration of his spell there. Again, you'd imagine a new contract was on the table from Perth, but instead the 30-year-old made another exciting career move, which no doubt would have been financially hard to say no to as well, moving to Qatar's top tier side Alhi SC on the 8th of August 2019. There he stayed for the next 2 years, playing week in and week out again, turning out a total of 41 times, one goal between 2019 and 21. On the 20th of May 2021, at the age of 31, he moved again out of his comfort zone, this time to Malaysian football with the country's top side, and you gotta say what a move it's been to date. He's played 63 times, winning 3 leagues, 4 cups with them during his stay, and playing with the club regularly in the AFC Champions League. That's the Asian Champions League, basically, to boot, with the majority of the Malaysian national team also made up of his club teammates, which again shows the circles he's mixing in and the levels he's playing at and excelling in, and how highly he's rated and respected there. With the season just ended, his club JDT FC again being crowned champions, their 11th title, again third within his spell at the club. As per transfer market, his contract's expiring on the 31st of May 2025. If correct, that means we don't have a long time to find out his next move, whether that be extending his stay with JDT FC or if he has some new move planned elsewhere. Internationally, he is eligible for Australia by birth and Ireland via his parents. The easier option you'd imagine for him growing up would have been to play for Australia. the Australian international setup from the outset, which various colleagues would have done at youth level and then senior level. He grew up there and mixed in those circles, and they were clearly aware of him. But credit to him, he initially only had eyes for Ireland and went on to represent Ireland at under 17s, 19s and 21s level. He said himself that was because at the time he said Australia didn't come calling, but I find that hard to believe. I'd say he just had eyes for Ireland, my reading of it, and he didn't want to offend anyone in Australia by saying otherwise. A senior call up to Ireland never materialised, unfortunately. Again, he no doubt was in conversations and close, but instead he was called up to the Australian senior side in May 2010, a week that perhaps was a career highlight at the time, as he just got promoted with loan side Leeds United and signed a new 2-year deal with Aston Villa as well. The call up to Australia was not just any call up to a couple of friendlies at some stage during the year. It was actually for their 2010 World Cup squad, and unfortunately he narrowly missed out on the final 23-man squad. I think he was one of 4 players that didn't make it, so that must have been a bittersweet to take at the time, being so close to the biggest competition in football in your career as a footballer, the biggest stage. It must have been a blow to miss out, but no doubt at that stage he would have been thinking, my time's going to come. But still, you know, like Ireland, Australia, it's not like they qualify for every single World Cup, so will you get that chance again? It must have been a bitter pill to swallow. Still shows how close he was at that stage, again at only 21 at the time, and a sign of how and levels of where everyone knew his career could go. At now 35, you'd imagine perhaps he's coming to the twilight years of his football career, but 35 now isn't the same as 20 years ago. If you look after yourself, healthy diet and training regimes and doing the right things to stave off injury, who knows how long he can go. Only he himself will know about where his body's at, but obviously he's going to do what's best for him and his career and his body. Again, you'd imagine senior international football is most likely not going to happen at this stage now, but nothing in life is 100%. If you're in form and playing at a high enough level, then age is just a number. Just to note, oldest Australian first cap player ever, I think, but certainly in recent times, was Luke Bratton, who's 34 last year when he was capped with Australia for the first time. For Ireland, it's a longer time ago, a 37-year-old called Bill Lacey in 1927. I was about 50 at that stage. But more recently, Dan Burn for England just called up at 32, and he was only a month or so off being 33. So age is just a number if you're really on form, and especially for Australia, Ireland, you got to pick players that are in form. So yeah, it's probably not going to happen for him with Ireland in Malaysia, but as I said, his contract's up, so who knows where he goes next and what level he's playing at. Anything could happen for Australia or Ireland, yeah. Again, possibly unlikely, but not impossible. Whether it be in his playing career or in life after football, whenever that comes, he has and no doubt will continue to think outside the box, making brave decisions that excite us fans and optimise his career development and path to its utmost. A very successful career has been to date, you have to say. Yes, he's 35, but it is possible to extend your longevity. There's people playing at 40 at very, very high levels. A player of his pedigree playing in one, if not the top league systems in the world, i.e. England with the Premiership, a regular English Championship, seasoned pro week in, week out, playing in 4 different leagues around the world, England, Australia, Qatar and currently Malaysia, winning promotion with Leeds, silverware in Australia's top tier, and also Malaysia with current club JDT FC, playing in European and Asian club football, and underage youth international with Ireland at several different age groups, and part of several Australian senior international camps, though again he wasn't capped. He was mixing in them and involved in them. So he's mixing with the cream of football's elite and being one of the first names on the team sheet at nearly every club he's been at throughout the entirety of his career is an impressive CV and continued success for the future, which no doubt will continue for many more years and some interesting moves yet to come. If you liked the video, send us a like, subscribe, or leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Or buy us a coffee at the link in the description. And as always, we'll be watching.